Maybe it was something that was derogatory in our life. Maybe it was a source of inspiration or something. Not entirely sure. Whoops. I'm hearing an echo because my other computer is on. Forgive me. Anyway, I'm going to drop the card here and we're going to reveal ourselves. And then we're going to go around the room and introduce ourselves. Revealed. I should have had you guys like Vogue or something like that. All right.
So play Hollywood Squares.
I know. So we're going to go down to Bill McCormick here. Introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, what you do. And then we'll go over to Jen.
Okay, my name is Bill McCormick. I call myself, Amazon calls me Bill McSciFi, and now I make money that way. I'm a science fiction writer. I'm based in Chicago. All the stuff you see behind me, I wrote and I sell. And thanks to the pandemic, I have a lot of it here, so buy it when we're done. But anyway, over to Jen.
My name is Jen Drexler. I am currently living in Florida. I grew up in New York with Meredith. And I spent a lot of time working at Disney, and right now I'm working for a pharmaceutical benefits company.
All right. Yeah. Matthew, you want to just a quick intro?
Yep, I'm just Meredith's partner in crime from Geek Insider. I'm the managing editor of geekinsider.com. We do several different podcasts, and this is one topic that I definitely had some input on, so I thought I would come in on an unscheduled one. Meredith's been wanting to put this together for a little bit. We'll get there. Go ahead, Meredith.
Yeah. All right. And you guys, I'm Meredith Loughran. I am one of the editors for Geek Insider, but I'm also the editor-in-chief for WildOne Forever. And it's a new old site. We are refurbishing it. I guess we're freshening up a lot of our articles. We're getting them posted and everything. And it's a woman-centric site. But so ironically, the term man up doesn't seem to fit there, but in a way it does. And Jen was asking me earlier, she's like, well, how did you hear that?
Who asked you?
But yeah, but I kind of want to go around the room a little bit and ask you what your initial, like the gut check feeling is when you hear the term man up, or if somebody's actually said it to you, and what did you do? Bill, you said that you had very strong feelings about this.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. First time I heard the term, I was in high school. I was in theater. And I'm one of those guys, like, I joined dance class because there was 100 women in there and me. So everyone's like, you're an effeminate little faggot. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm getting pussy every goddamn night. So I was okay with it. But... even though I was a lousy dancer, I was a horrible dancer, but I tried. But first,
you know what? You were smart too, because you were surrounded by all the girls.
Not to say anything, Bill, but I was a dance major in college, so yeah, you were probably correct on that.
This is high school in the
suburbs. No, you were.
So yeah. Oh, admit it, Jennifer. You were like, hey, there's a guy in here. I'm getting
exactly, like, and any guy in the dance class gets a full scholarship. So there you go.
There you go. Anyway, so I got one night. I came out of something from theater, and some guys told me, like, "Oh man, you're wearing makeup. You should man up." And I was like, "What?" And he explained to me that I should do this and that, and I'm like, I played football until I had bone cancer, and then I had to stop because they were actually looking at amputating my leg, and so you can't play football then. And after that, when I was learning how to walk again. They didn't amputate it. I still have my leg, but when I was learning how to walk again and dance again and do stuff again, I got involved in theater and I got involved in art and I got involved in music. And I got told to man up, and I was like, it was the most offensive thing I could ever think because I was comfortable in my skin. I liked being me. And as I got older and I did stuff that would be way on the left side of the radar, I mean, I was pretty experimental in the 80s. And I don't know how deep you want to go into that, but every now and then I would hear that, it's like, hey man, you should man up, quit doing this, quit doing that. And I don't know if Meredith, I don't know if you've been to my Facebook page, but I got pictures of myself from the early 80s. And, it's like blonde hair, earrings, black hair, makeup. I used to date, the last time I heard the phrase, and I always thought it was funny because it came up thusly. I was working for James Brown. And one of his people said to me that I should man up. And before I could respond, the woman I was dating, who was 6 foot tall, African-American woman with dreads that hung to her knees, literally looked this guy right in the eye and goes, "He's more of a man than 3 of you will ever be." I was like, I like that line. And that was the end of that. That was the last time I heard it. But man up to me is one of those offensive phrases because you're supposed to pretend to be a man. You're not a man. Just pretend to be a man. Pretend to be this stereotypical figure of testosterone run wild, like he stepped out of a fucking G.I. Joe cartoon. And hell, even G.I. Joe cartoons are more empathetic than that. So I've always found it very, very offensive. I've always found it very, very belittling. I've always found it very, very limiting and what a man could be. I mean, we don't have to go down the whole list, but when I think of positive male influences in my life, and I grew up without a father, hell, I grew up without a lot of family. I just kind of made shit up as I went along. But I've always found the whole thing to be completely offensive. And then again, what was it, 5 years ago, Betty White said, tell people grow a sack, grow some balls. She's like, no, tell them to grow a pussy. That thing could take a pounding. And that, that I agree with.
I love that. I love her.
So, yeah, Jen, if you were looking for a filtered, quiet, tepid, and they didn't invite me here for that.
I warned her.
No, I was warned. I was pre-warned. That's right. But no,
most people are when I'm being introduced to them. It's like, and this is Bill. He doesn't have a filter. And this is true. I teach Sunday school, and I teach decorum in Sunday school, like little boys and girls how to behave. And they love me, and I get along great with them. And the teachers were terrified when they first met me because some of them had read my science fiction, and they're like, "No."
Well, you know what, Bill, I think you have to be naughty to be good, or at least have a basic understanding of what good is.
Yeah.
As a friend of mine said, she's a professional dominatrix, and she said she could never have been a pro dom if she hadn't learned how to be a good sub. So you got to learn as you go.
Yeah.
And I bet you never had that line ever come up on your show before.
Nope. I can safely say that is the first. Virgin no more. Okay, show's over.
Gotta go. Bye.
Jen, how about you?
I've never really, because I grew up, well, when I went to college, I was in dance, and I always had a lot of guys. And I always knew that they heard that man up, you got to be a man. But I really didn't get any kind of man upping until I worked for one of my other companies in timeshare. Let's just tell you that. And I was in a male centric department. I was in project management, and I was basically a project manager managing all these positions. And they're just, well, you got to man up and take some more on and do this. And I'm just like, hey, you're not paying me, this and that. But it was just like everybody, that IT world that I sat in for 8 years was, pretty much all men in the company, in the area, from my manager to their manager to the manager below me. It was just, it was all male driven, and you have to work this way, and you have to be hard, and you have to do it this way, and don't take no for an answer. And it's, what I'm trying to think of that old saying that you get more with sugar than you do with, honey than you do with flies. Yeah. Can't remember that, but it, for me to be nice to those folks in the business was just like, oh, hey, what do you need? What do you want? What is this supposed to look like once we finish, the whole project? Is it supposed to flow into that scheme? Is it going into your JavaScript? What are your requirements? And then, they were like, no, you need to just go in and tell them, this is what we're doing. This is how it's done. And you just can't do that. And for me, I'm just like, hey, being 4'11" too, it was just kind of like, I'm this short girl in this man-driven environment who was just like, yeah, you got to just be like us. And I'm just thinking, yeah, this is really not for me, and that's kind of why I moved out of the IT world. Going, when you think about it, Bill, I'm like, oh, dance world to IT, where did that come from, right? But that's where I ended up. And now I said, I need out. But in that whole spectrum of manning up, I don't think it has to do a lot with, oh yeah, I'm strong and I'm going to be crass and hard. And I don't know. I prefer a guy who's more comfortable in their skin. And to me, that is more of a man than any, I'm big and strong and I can get all these projects completed. And I'm the boss and I'm the CEO. And yeah, sometimes you don't care about that. Not really what you want when you meet someone, so. that's
Yeah, Matthew, how about you?
Yeah.
As far as man up, any experiences either being told to man up or saying it to somebody?
I have never used it myself because I think I came out of the womb and was told it. It was something that I spent a lot of my life being told. Um, my dad was a son of a bitch until way late in life, and then we became really good friends. But throughout my youth, I was a mama's boy in the early, the childhood, elementary school. And so my dad was always telling me, quit being a pussy, man up. And then I started hanging out with some cousins of mine, and they were pretty redneck, and their dad was the same way as far as my dad. It was constant, man up, quit being a pussy. You fall and scrape your knee and it get all bloody, and any kid that age is going to do is they're going to cry and want it doctored, and I was constantly told, to man up. And so it actually became a trigger for me in high school. I played football, pee-wee or pee-wee, little league. And my dad was the coach, which was just absolutely horrible. But then when I got into high school, I went to play for my high school team, and same thing. One of the coaches told me that, and that's when I found out it was a trigger, because it was instant pissed off, rage, ready to throw the barbells at his head. And that's why I just never used it. I ended up raising 2 stepsons, and sure, I messed with them. We called each other names, playing around, things that I would be, ripped on Twitter about if I was to do it these days. But it was just that kind of rapport between father and son, and it wasn't ever belittling. Especially, you call me a dumbass, and even crippled Matthew is going to throw down on that one, or get your head out of your ass, or the man up. Those are 3 things, and it's all because of my dad. And those kind of things, a lot of guys, especially our age, the late 40s, early 50s, that grew up in the 70s and 80s, that's something we heard a lot of. Those kind of, they thought it was motivational. Well, it wasn't. It's not motivational. It wasn't motivational back then, and it's damn sure isn't motivational now.
I really quick to add to that. This is a true story. I was 1976. I was 14 years old, coming up on 15. Bicentennial was happening. I was playing basketball at a friend of mine's backyard. He had a little hoop up. And we were playing, and I landed wrong, and my toe bent to my hip, which, if you know where toes and hips go, that's the wrong way. Backwards. So my next door neighbor, the guy who lived next door, he helped me walk it home. My leg was swelling up. It was like 3 times its normal size. And I wasn't a big kid. I mean, I was tall. I'm 6.5 feet tall, so 6'5" and change. But I wasn't big then. I'm heavier now. And my legs all swollen up and everything else. I get home. My mom had just moved in with us after a few years of not bothering to talk to me. And she just moved in, and my leg's swollen up, and it's bent the wrong way, and my foot's facing the wrong direction. And she's like, "Oh, fuck you. Just man up. You'll be fine in a couple hours. Put some ice on it." Finally, my grandmother made her take her to the hospital. So what she did, she took me to Oak Park Hospital. And the doctor there, I'll never forget this, he looked at her and he's like, "There's no knee there anymore. It's literally gone." They're like, "We're going to have to," they're talking amputate. And finally, the doctor's like, "Well, there's this new thing they're doing with DuPont where they put plastic ligament tips and plastic joint tops on and a plastic kneecap. And we can do that. And it'll be, you'll have the staples and stuff. And he'll probably have arthritis, but he'll have a leg." And my mom's like, "She's thinking about that." I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing? The staples. I want the staples. I'm 15. I don't have a say in it legally in Illinois." And the doctor's like, "You know what? We'll go with the kid." Because at that point, he's like, my mother was nothing but a litany of bad choices in his eyes. And like in a half an hour, he's like, "This woman has made no good life choices. We've got to save this kid." So I don't know how we got the paperwork signed, but the next day, 3 days later, I went in for surgery. 2 weeks later, I was able to walk. And two months later, I was cliff diving. So it worked. But I never manned fucking up. So
yeah, My father has said that to me a few times, and we were kind of joking around before we started the show because I think he really wanted a son. I think maybe it was a cultural thing. I don't know, because my mother is Korean, and so having the son was like the heir, the heir apparent, and I don't know if it's just natural inclination, but I've always, done. I've always loved mechanical things. I've loved putting things together. I used to crawl into the car with my dad and stuff like that. And if I cried or, if I was hurt as a kid, I'd hear my father say, "Man up." And my brother being the third child and the only boy, it was so terrible for him. I mean, not only did he have three sisters who were beating up on him, but he had the responsibility of carrying on the family name and all of this pressure and stuff like that no kid should really have. And my parents were really, really rough on him too. And I don't want to tell his story. That's his story to tell. But it was just I heard it often enough. And to me, I don't know that I felt offended by it necessarily. It was just, but I was very confused. I was like, what the hell does that even mean to man up? Because, speaking to what Jen was saying before, when you're in a field that has predominantly a male presence, and they want you to man up and they want you to be more aggressive and, more whatever, and it's like, I don't know about you, Jen. I work my ass off, and
I can be aggressive. I mean, I'm from New York, I used to tell people I'll unzip my face and come out, I'm, moved to Florida and everything slows down. Right. Yeah. And it's nothing against Floridians or anything like that, but you slow down. And even my boss, who was from New Jersey, my first boss was a woman from New Jersey. So she's like, you just got to tone it down a little, we're not in New York and New Jersey anymore. And it's like, well, okay. So then I toned it in when I first became her assistant. But when I got promoted, it was like, okay, now you got to be this. And, it's time to unzip. And, I'm so used to now being in my little shell that I wasn't ready to unzip. Now you give me to something like the cable people who want to charge me extra or something, I'll unzip, I'll go crazy. Ask my husband, he'll tell you, if you want someone to yell and scream on the phone and get their way, that would be me. But, when I was younger, it sounds like you were very close with your dad. And I was very close with my dad. I had two older sisters, so I have no brothers. I had one male cousin who we'd see everybody every Sunday, after church at grandma's. Everybody had dinner and he was the only one. And, I was close with my dad, but he never really said man up. And I think that, listening to you and hearing that, if I had probably heard that, I probably would have been like, oh yeah, it could be a guy. Back then it was just like, what does it mean? And just like you said, like, how do I take that?
And see, for me, it was like, because I was very close to my dad. Yeah. And, he would have his Friday night poker games and stuff like that. And he'd have all the guys there. And, for me, I felt like for the longest time I was stuck in the friend zone because all the guys were like, that's my buddy, Yeah. So in a way, it wasn't so derogatory for me. But again, when we're expected to, when we as women are told to man up and stuff, to be aggressive, to go after them and blah, 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 and get your testosterone on and stuff like that, then we're also seen as the bitch.
I could be a bitch if I really wanted to.
Yeah, but, I can be a bitch. I'll own that. I have no problem with that. But
and
but
then you're seen as too strong, and you're coming on. Yes, and then you're super assertive, and where do you stop?
Somebody here. Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I was just going to say it's the Dean Koontz fantasy, and this is where I always describe it this way because it's. People actually know who Dean Koontz is. They, whatever they think of him.
Right.
Every female character in his books has two qualities. She's a Madonna, a lovely woman by day, a librarian, an accountant, an IT executive who works for Disney, whatever. She's a lovely, sweet woman. right? By night, this bitch is taking it up the ass and screaming, damn me, she's a whore.
And you're seeing both ways, right? And that can go in any kind of,
right. But here's the thing, all the men in the Dean Koontz world, they have manned up. They are, I must take care of this situation. I must do something in this situation. Yeah. The only book he wrote that was worth reading was Frankenstein. Then I found out he didn't write it, so fuck him. But but the rest of his male characters are all like, here I am to save the day. I'm Mighty Mouse, motherfucker. And, and then I'm going to take this woman, and she's my Madonna by day, so I can take her out and show her to all my friends because she's sweet and innocent and pure. And then tonight I'm going to go home and rape her ass, and she has no say in that because she's a whore.
It's kind of like you're not good enough to bring home to mom.
Right.
Exactly.
I purposely kind of went out of my way to get the girls who weren't good enough to bring home to mom.
Yeah.
And the girl I was dating when I was working for James Brown, she was a piece of work, but she was an IT executive for Cisco Systems. And I mean, she was smart as smart could be. And her father was a famous R&B musician from the 60s and 70s. I'm not going to name these people because we're not together anymore, but she was one of, and when we walked into a room, I'm still very pale. I get any paler, you can see through me. And she was Jamaican. So she was African Jamaican. So she wasn't just black. She was like obsidian black. And so we were very contrasty together. We did it for quite some time. I mean, we came really close to getting married. She's the first girl I introduced to my mom. Mm-hmm. And my mom, I should mention before I forget this, my mother married a guy who was a grand wizard for the Ku Klux Klan. So bringing her to dinner was like...
I can imagine.
Episode, that's a whole new remake of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Oh, yeah. And we had dinner at a taco restaurant because my mom was afraid to invite her near where any of her friends could see it. So we actually went to a neutral territory Mexican restaurant. I felt like I was doing gangland negotiations. I'm going to go over here. Nobody knows us over there. It'll be fine. We'll talk over there. But she didn't like my mom. First. She didn't like my mom, but she did like my tattoo artist, so I paid for her first tattoo. So that was cool.
Well, as we were sitting here talking, I remembered another instance of the man up, second grade. So it had to be right around 1976, 77. And back then I was being, for second grade, we were bused to the other side of town. They would bus the other children to our part of town. It was the whole, they were trying to get the school districts better. Well, I don't remember what happened. I was running my mouth on the bus and a girl kicked my ass. And, I'm sure I deserved it. But I remember she hit me and my eyes went whoop and I went down. Well, I get home and of course I get it from dad. I get it from my uncle, my cousins. And then later through life, after being pestered with this by sixth grade, I became not a bully, but I would seek out bullies or anybody that was picking on somebody, and I would put myself into that fight. And then that became a thing to where I was always getting my butt kicked by my dad, for getting into fights. But the whole man up thing, it can have such a lasting effect or domino effect, not only on the child's psyche, boy or girl, but also on how they perceive what they're supposed to do in life. For the stories that I would hear about my dad, they would go out to the bar and they would get into bar fights. And I remember one of the favorite stories of my uncle was that him and his brothers were in a fight. My dad was with them. And the barmaid said, "I'm going to call the cops." And my dad said, "No, you're not," and knocked her out. And so that was the kind of things that I had in my head of that's what it's supposed to be a man. You go out, you get drunk, you get in a fight, you knock the shit out of some strange woman because she's going to call the cops on you. But then when I started doing that, not punching women, but getting into fights all the time, then it was the wrong thing. And so you just couldn't win for losing back then. But the my brother's in the chat room and he just called out the uncle. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to say on that. You keep doing that man up. You keep putting that pressure on them. And you don't know what you're going to get. My aunt, another aunt, told me here a while back, she said, it's no wonder that you didn't turn out to be a serial killer. It's just you were hammered through, your entire life. And it is, at least now I've somewhat semi-adjusted. But
Yeah. Well, looking back, I think to that that era, right? Because we all kind of grew up. I mean, we all kind of grew up in the 70s and 80s, and it was totally different. I mean, the world was totally different. It's nothing like it is today. It's, you know, we were not prepared back then for what we're doing today, right? What's happening today.
No.
So I think we're keeping the therapists in business, some of us, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I do. And you think about stuff that happened and you're just like, God, why, how am I not in therapy? Or how, you know, maybe I should go to therapy because of all these things that happened in my past. And
well, I did do therapy. By the way, for anyone who's listening to this, therapy fucking rocks. Go in there, do it. Find a therapist.
Yeah.
If the first therapist you find is like, and now today we're going to talk about unicorns and rainbows. Blow them, fuck them. Go get a therapist who's going to talk to you about real world issues and real world solutions. But whatever you do, if you feel you need to talk to someone, talk to a therapist. And I'll throw this out there because I threw it out on Twitter and had some people take me up on it. If you want to talk to someone who's a complete asshole and has been through some shit, talk to me. I'm here. And Meredith has my info. I don't care. I talk to complete strangers all the time. I'm actually just, may I tell a really funny story?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I threw this out there a couple of months ago, basically, you know, blah, 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 talk to me. And a group of Asian escorts, prostitutes in England, ran across my book, Hybrid Zero, and they took me up on that offer to talk to me. And we've ended up becoming great friends, and they're going through the whole thing of the pandemic. They're on lockdown. But in England, when a prostitute goes on lockdown, she gets unemployment, so they're not worried. They're doing okay. But so they bought my comics. They've been having some fun. We've gotten to become really good friends thanks to the pandemic. But the way we became friends and the way everything else started was because they needed someone to talk to that wasn't going to judge them. And because of all the shit I've been through in my life, the last thing I'm ever going to do is judge you. And you know, there's never going to be a day where I'm like, you need to do this. Bullshit. Well, maybe you need to make a margarita because everybody needs to make a margarita once in a while. Or maybe my girlfriend should refill my vodka because it's getting near empty. But
I know. I'm looking at my coffee going, that would be really nice. With
wine. That's my same size of glass that I drink my whiskey in, and I didn't make one before the show, and Bill's been teaching me the whole time. Every time he takes a drink, I'm like, dang it.
The worst thing for me is I was doing one of these Zoom things on TV. I haven't had a cigarette since March 14th, and I needed to quit. There's a lot of yay team, fuck me. Anyway.
Yeah. Hey, I quit a long time ago, and I miss it every day. Trust me, I know.
Oh, come on. I would blow a chihuahua to get a menthol right now. So let's be honest about what I'm going through. But so I'm doing one of these Zoom meetings, and there's all these people on there. I'm doing one of these Zoom meetings, and this motherfucker lights up my brand, and he's poking on it the whole time.
And you're just like, drool.
He's in Brooklyn, so there's nothing I could do about it. Of course, in New York, he's an asshole. I should have known. And he likes bad pizza. But I guess my point is to circle this all back to man up. Man up is a very toxic thing. It makes the males try to be something there's no way they can fucking be. Not for any extended period of time. Like Matthew was talking about, you're going to end up in fights. I ended up hanging out with a bunch of bikers. I got my first tattoo. Let's see if I can show this here. Up here. First tattoo with life, sex, and death ingrained in the eyeball at a biker party the day before they blew up the bar in a biker war between two other gangs. And there's actually footage of me, if you watch History Channel, of the Chicago Hell's Henchmen versus the Outlaws. There's footage of me vaulting over a fucking VFW as debris is blowing out of the building. But I just got the tattoo and I still had it go. And so that's my life.
Yeah, I think that's movie worthy.
Yeah.
No wonder you don't judge anybody, Bill. No, I'm exactly the same way. I've been a son of a bitch. I've been a halfway decent guy. I've done just about everything there is to do under the sun. And so I'm the same way. I don't care what your story is. There's no way in hell I'm going to judge because just what I've been through and what I've put other people through, the way, people that I've hurt in time. But what I try to do is learn from my mistakes. And that's all any of us can do. And learning from our parents' mistakes, Sure, I made enough of my own mistakes with my kids. I didn't need to repeat my parents' mistakes. But this is something, you would think this kind of term, this phrasing and stuff wouldn't even be around these days, because you have the different non-binary sex, you have the transsexuals, and it can be offensive. I mean, hell, there's times I don't know how to address someone because they don't identify as the sex that they look like. And I trip up over that still, because I don't want to, for lack of a better word, offend them. But I also, to me, it's a respect thing. If that's the way that they're wanting to live, then so be it. And a man up kind of topic or a statement to someone in that vulnerable of a situation could be devastating. Just like Bill and I were saying, it just for a woman these days being told to man up, it has all kinds of terrible connotations. Men, same thing. You're supposed to be this, act like Bill said, act like a man, because you're not one. But then when you have, people that are borderline coming out of the closet, or they're transitioning or considering transitioning, and you say something like that to them, they are going to be one of the ones that needs therapy, or really should seek therapy, because they need someone that isn't judgmental, that's going to listen to them.
I will offer a piece of advice, and I actually mentor a couple of trans kids, African-American trans kids, so they've got all of life's joys in front of them. And I work with them as best I can. But I'll tell you the same thing I tell them. I said, if I can learn to call Gordon Sumter fucking Sting, then I can learn to call them however they want to be called. And it's that simple to me, and we talk about stuff that's wildly uncomfortable. Like where Matthew was saying about misgendering someone. I do it. I work with them and I do it. I don't mean to. Right. I'm not purposely saying the wrong thing, but it happens. The thing of it is when it happens, and you get corrected, then remember that. Don't keep going back to the misgendering. Don't keep going back to the offensive thing. It can happen once. All right, you're, shit. Especially when they're early in transition. Right. When it comes to transsexuals. Or I've got a friend who's she's actually intersex.
I have an intersex friend too.
And she and I do cons and everything together. And it's like, the first time I saw her, I almost said he. And then I stopped because she was wearing a frilly dress, a pinafore, and she was carrying a staff. And I was like, probably not he. So I just went with Dave for a few seconds until she told me, basically she identified as she. And I went, okay, cool, she. And then we moved on. Somehow I managed not to train wreck that situation. I'm really excited because now into our relationship, she and I are deep, dear, wonderful friends. We get along. It's great. I love her dearly. And you should have her on one of these shows because her point of view and her life experiences makes me look like Play-Doh. I'm nothing. I'm clay. She's been through some shit. And I'll send Meredith. I'll send you her info when we get off this.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's not hard. It takes a few seconds out of your day. Meredith wants to be called Meredith. Okay, I'm going to call her Meredith. Do I call her Mare? No. Do I call her Yo Log Bitch? No. I say Meredith. That's it. It's that simple. Matthew? Yeah. He's Matthew. Do I go Yo M Dog? No, because he's not Yo M Dog. He's Matthew. And
he might blah,
be. Blah, blah.
And they used to say that too. It's like, become your brand, and don't let anybody call you what you don't. Is it Jen? Is it Jenny? Is it Jennifer? Well, it's definitely not Jenny. You're right. But
become your brand.
Bill
has that in spades.
I don't have a sign, damn it.
I don't have anything that says my name on it.
Because Matthew and I did a thing together at the last GeekCon and about how I became Bill McSciFi and the whole Amazon story. And it's funny and blah, blah, blah. And I'll share it later. But so I literally had the website, the Bill McSciFi, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, everything. All of it, I had it like within 7 days. I locked up that name because Amazon had made a mistake on my account. And I'm like, I'm stealing that. Screw Jeff Bezos and his billions. Let him sue me to try and take it back. I want to see how that goes in court. So I became Bill McSciFi, which is cool because there's a million Bill McCormicks, but there's only one Bill McSciFi.
There you go.
And that's how I identify. I identify as Bill McSciFi. You can call me that now. It's cool.
Yeah, it's funny because when I address people, whether they're male or female, I always say, "Hey guys," you know. I don't mean to offend or anything. It's just something that
It's
I've
something we grew up with.
said.
It's something
yeah.
that it's been
You
in
know, if
our
somebody's
culture and our
offended
language.
by that, it's almost like, for me, it's almost like, okay, I get it, but it's coming from a place of like, I'm greeting the general, you know,
Majority
you
of people.
hey, you guys. I mean, we grew up with a freaking electric company. That's, you know, that's
right.
things like that. So, I mean, you know, again, I think there has to be some consideration both ways.
I got news for you, Meredith.
If I'm being a total asshole, if somebody actually says, "Hey, I identify as him, her," you know, whatever the case might be, and I continue to call them the opposite, then yes, that's offensive. You know, so I don't know. Again, I've never really been politically correct. I don't know the rules because they keep freaking changing. You know, so I don't know. What do you guys have to say to somebody like me who's kind of, I'm stuck in my ways. I really am. And I don't have a lot of people in my life. Actually, I have nobody like directly in my life that is transitioning or anything. My husband did wear a kilt. That's about as close to a dress, you know. And he's the one who always says that my balls clank. So, you know, I mean, so there's that. And I don't mean to make light or anything like that, but, you know, because it is a serious topic. But at the same time, again, there, with a little bit of leniency and some understanding, and, you know, I'm willing to learn. But I don't want my head bitten off because I said the wrong thing either. You know?
I can actually answer this because it comes up in my sessions with the kids. And I've had more than two, let's put it that way, young people transitioning from male to female, going through the whole thing. If you said, "Hey, you guys, how you doing?" they wouldn't give a shit. If you said, "Hey, you a guy?" then they might get frustrated, especially because some of them got tits bigger than yours. In fact, one girl's got a set of tits that's just like amazing. It's kind of scary. But
well, your mind is like wacky.
Look, she started taking estrogen.
So good.
But the point is,
just at home here.
Yeah, you know, but the point is, none of the people I've worked with in the LGBTQIA community are going to get offended if you say, "Hey, you guys," or "Hey, everybody," or "Hey," some sort of generic group term. Where they get offended is when you keep making the mistakes. You can misgender somebody once; it happens all the time. When I was younger and thinner and I had really long hair, I got called "Yo, Miss" more times than I care to admit. And my voice, when I turn around, I go, "Yo," and they're like, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah.
I'll never forget one time I was getting on a train and some guy's like, "Man, lady, you got a nice ass." And I'm like, "Excuse me."
That reminds me of that old movie, Cheaper to Keeper. And,
oh, yeah.
And he pulls up and the guy is in short Daisy Dukes working on the car. And he pulls up and he starts talking shit. It turns around, dude, beard like mine, you know.
I did that once. I think I was in middle school and we were walking through the Newburgh Mall and there was the guy with really long blonde hair. I mean, beautiful hair. I mean, I saw the hair and I saw the freaking legs and I was like, damn, you know, I wouldn't mind legs and an ass like that, and turn around and he had the beard. And I was just like, oh, well, shit, I still wouldn't mind the ass and the legs like that, you know?
But you do without the beard.
Right.
Do without
right.
the beard.
Well, and back then, it was something that we never really, you know, was never really that open, you know, not open, but it was never really that well known, you know?
No, I mean, what did we have? We had Billie Jean King and one other.
Yeah. So
you know,
it was something that nobody knew about, and so it was taboo, and it's not taboo anymore, and it's, you know, it's part of mainstream. That's it. It's everybody's.
Look, I teach Sunday school, and one of the things I teach kids, and if I'm wrong, I'll find out when I die, but one of the things I teach kids is that God made us all, and God doesn't make mistakes. Right. So that, you know, if you're transgender, then your physical body is a shell. It's the person inside you, the thing that's inside you that you're meant to be. And if you can concentrate on that and focus on that, then you can be who and what you're supposed to be. And I say that all the time. I believe that. I believe that in my soul. And I find myself amused that Alice Cooper, who's a hardcore evangelical Christian, agrees with me. And he actually went so far as in 2012 at Bonnaroo to perform Lady Gaga's Born This Way as an anthem, which, by the way, if you ever get a chance, look it up on YouTube. It is fucking balls to the wall amazing. But it's Alice Cooper doing a Lady Gaga song with an all-female guitar group doing the leads. And he just lays it out there. And it's like, if Alice Cooper can get this, then there's no reason the rest of us have to be lagging behind. And by the way, I was figuring out by everything somebody said here, I'm older than all of y'all. I was born when Kennedy was president.
Oh, then you got me by a little bit.
Yeah,
I was born in '69.
Yeah, okay, I got you by 7 years, 8 years. I got you by 8 years. I was like I said, I was a teenager when the bicentennial came on. I was already, I was in my sophomore year when all that happened. So, but it's not hard. But telling someone to man up is one of the most offensive and simple-minded things you could possibly do. You are literally saying you are no longer a human being. You are a caricature that you need to act the following way and do the following thing. And that's great if you're a character in an anime, but not so hot if you're trying to live day to day as a human being.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll shut up now.
So explain. Here's the thing, and we've all kind of touched on it a little bit. But what does it now mean to be a man? And is there any situation where that might be okay to say? Because we're talking about the derogatory side of it. So is there any positive thing? Because again, man up. I raised 3 boys. And I have a stepson. So there's just boys in my life. And I've never actually said the term man up to them. I've never done that. I think maybe their father has, my ex, because he's just kind of like, and I'm going to say it, he was like the manly man, which is derogatory. And it was just like this persona, this caricature of some freaking, I don't know, gangster movie that he saw, whatever the case might be. I've never personally said that to my boys, because my definition of man is not so. It's not this aggressive person. It's, we all have those traits. Some of those traits are just it's in your DNA.
Yeah.
And for me, again, when my father said it to me, it was just kind of like, again, stuck in the friend zone. I was always like the buddy. I was always comfortable with the guys, not for dating, but for hanging out. And we could tell fart jokes and stuff like that, And I never questioned whether or not I was a woman or not. It was just that, when I was younger, it felt like I couldn't buy a date because I was perpetually stuck in the man, friend zone. So what does it mean then to be a man? How do we define that?
I don't. I don't.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I think it's everybody has their own definition of it, but it's really not defined.
Look, all right. On the one hand, manly man stuff. I'm a big, hairy guy. I've been shot. I've been stabbed. I've done all the manly things. Like if I'm putting up my man card, I've got it. I've got all the stuff.
Well, yeah, you've got the beard, you've got the tattoos, you've got the muscle, you've got the height, and you've been through all of this stuff. So
and I've had sex with a
manly man.
And I've had sex with a couple of supermodels. So yeah, I nailed this shit. None of that matters. Absolutely none of that matters. And it took me a while to learn that. It took me a while to get over that. And maybe the last 20 years of my life, 30 years of my life, it really 25 maybe of my life that I've really gotten over that. And I've learned that it isn't so much to be a man or to be a woman. No more would I would no more tell Jennifer to show me her tits than I would ask Matthew. For the same reason. It's disrespectful. Right. What matters to me is, can I be the best human I can be? Just like I tell the kids, it's not the dingleberries you're hanging. It's not what's growing on top outside of you. It's the person inside. It's the person you are, and that's what we need to get across to people. We don't need to be the best man. We've got a bully in the White House, and I'm sorry that's political, but we've got a bully, and I live by the motto that all bullies are cowards at heart. and I'm not being disproved recently, but because they've been told their whole life to man up, they've been told how to be a man, and they're not a man because they're not a human. They're just there.
Mhm.
And I feel sorry for people like that, but I feel sorry for the hundreds of thousands who died because of that mentality, and the millions who have died worldwide because of that mentality. And being a man to me is just being a person. Being capable of some basic empathy. And you can't, I mean, I've been through a ton of shit, and I have no problem bragging about it when you throw some more booze at me. But it's not, it's not a matter of that defining me. Because to me, the thing that bothers me, like we're going through this whole pandemic right now. I don't know when this is going to go live, but when this whole pandemic is going on, I teach Sunday school, and the thing that kills me the most is that I cannot be with those kids. We do some stuff on Zoom, yay, but I can't be with the kids. We can't talk. We can't do that. That's empathy. That's life. That's helping people who need help. And even if they reach out to me and they're like, it's stupid stuff. I ended up giving them a chili recipe that I'd made for a cookout because they didn't have that recipe at home. They didn't know how to make it, and I wasn't there to show them how to make it. And they felt bad because their parents had to read the recipe and figure it out and call me and go, "You did what?" But that simple interaction, that simple belief in others, that simple ability to share with others, that is not being a man, or that is being a man. That's being a human. That's being a woman. That's being a person.
I think the country, though, in the world, there's a big lack of that empathy. I mean, I think you see.
Oh yeah. Oh,
there's a huge lack, and you kind of like think, well, where the hell did it go wrong? Like where, and that's a whole nother topic, right? Like where did the world go wrong? Like we grew up in this world that was, pretty much almost all Christian and all these different values, and then where did it blow up? Like, we would joke probably, Meredith, that, after the class of 89, that's when the shit hit the fan, right?
We were the bad,
and
we were the bad
that,
class.
we really were the bad class, but we were horrible. But, where did it go wrong? Did it go wrong in the 90s kids? Did it go wrong with the 2000 kids? Like where, so I think in the world, we all have that empathy. I think there's a whole bunch of us in our age groups that have that, but growing up now, it's like the kids don't care about, they're not taught to care. Somebody falls, people laugh and take a picture of it, or a video. So it's not, they don't teach that in a lot of, even the schools. I mean, we never really were taught that in the school. It was just kind of like, you got that from the teachers and your parents.
Yeah, but we didn't have everything online,
right?
I mean, if we made a mistake, if we made a mistake, it wasn't all over the internet,
right?
And perpetually logged somewhere in the interwebs. So I don't know. For us, we weren't plugged in until much later on in our life, and by then we were able to form our own opinions and things. And a lot of times I think these days people mistake opinion for fact. And a lot of times their opinion is so strong that they think it's fact and they'll shut you down. And it's like, wait, and I think when we don't take the time to just shut our mouth and listen, and hear the other side. This was something that I mentioned to my son, my middle one. Oh my gosh, he was a nightmare. I mean, he was like the kid that I hated to love because he was just such a fucking nightmare. And I mean, I love him. He's turned out to be such a great young man. And, I mean, he's got a wife. I've got a grandbaby on the way, and he's just, he's very caring and he's very empathetic, and it's just all those things that I wished for him to grow up and just be a responsible human being. And he's doing that. But I mean, he was a nightmare. And I did a Matthew because I forgot where I was going with this, but
I'm not the only one.
Yeah. And I'm
show.
sober, guys. Oh my gosh. But it was one of those things where he became a responsible human being. And it was rough for him, I want to say, because being the boy and everything, and he was much more aggressive. He was the kid that I if you said one thing, he would say it was the other, and it was just a spiteful thing. And he would. This was where I was going with this. You could see his mind turning. So when you were trying to present an argument to him, you could see his mind spinning. So he wasn't really listening. It was almost like he was trying to think about the next thing he wanted to say. And so it was never really an argument or a debate that moved the conversation forward. It was just, I was trying to say something and he was just talking at me.
Well,
and so nothing was sinking in.
Yeah.
Eventually he quieted down, where he learned to stop and listen before he came up with a response. But sometimes you see people like that who they're so busy thinking about their comeback.
Right. They're not even paying attention to what
they're not even paying attention to what the conversation is.
No.
But see, something else, you brought it up with the internet and everything, and I actually went and looked up a quote really quick. The false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is as good as your knowledge. That's Isaac Asimov from 1958. And that was then. But now we're more aware of this dichotomy. We're more aware of this people who think, that 5G networks cause cancer or whatever. Some bullshit. But the thing of it is that it used to be my buddy Zay Smith, who recently passed away thanks to COVID. But he's a writer. He won a Pulitzer Prize. You can look him up. He's a human being, or he was. But he wrote a thing, and he always used to say that what used to be the opinion of the loud guy at the end of the bar is now the dominant voice, because everyone has a voice on the internet, and all the voices are equal, even though they're not really. If 98% of climate change scientists say that climate change is happening, one guy saying it's not doesn't make him equal to that 98. But we've accepted that equality, and I think that's what's happened now with the last 20 years as the internet has exploded. That man up mentality that, well, now I'm going to be a man, and now there's going to be a hot chick for me, and now there's going to be this, and now there's going to be that. And maybe I want to do a little tranny porn, but that's over on the side because I'm in Arkansas and it's okay. Which that's a big thing in Arkansas. Don't ask. I have a friend of mine who works for Pornhub, and she can tell you county by county in the U.S. what everybody's getting down to. And Arkansas, they're way into tranny porn. But so if you're looking, if you're transsexual and looking to make money, Arkansas. Let me just say that. But the point is that this toxic mentality has flowed through, and it's become an equal weight to what Meredith was talking about, being an empathetic human being. What Jennifer was talking about, to become a holistic or a caring human being, and what Matthew and I are saying is what nearly destroyed us as human beings.
Right.
But now that's all become equal, and we're gonna have to fight back against that. And I do every day. I try and fight back against that in my little corner of the multiverse. But we cannot, and I can't say this strong enough, we cannot let man up. We cannot let that toxic dichotomy of, if you're a man, you get all these toys. It was like Mad Men, the TV show. You're a man, you wear the tie, you got the suit, you're looking hot. You can do your secretary. She can't say anything because she's a chick. And that's what Man Up. See, Man Up comes with prizes. It's like a game show with fucking prizes. And the prizes in this case are other human beings. They're the lives of other human beings. And if we cannot allow that mentality to take hold in this world, on this planet, in this neighborhood, and certainly not in my fucking house. Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
All right.
Well, Bill, all I have to
Comment,
say,
Matthew?
I was just going to make a comment to Bill that he has got to introduce me to some of these friends of his. That's what I've got to say.
You know what? I will right now. There's a gentleman named Steve Silver. He wrote a book called This Is Going to Hurt a Bit. It's on Amazon. It's on around. It's gotten tremendous critical acclaim. Steve and I have known each other about 35 years. He used to be a cokehead bouncer who used to deal large amounts of cocaine. I mean, like kilos of cocaine, and beat people up for a living. And he is now a beautiful man with a beautiful wife and a beautiful life. And he and I went through a lot of the same shit together. But he is out there. He has a book. He's online. He's my Facebook friend. He's my Twitter friend. He's not my Instagram friend. I don't know what's wrong with that. But we're friends. I see him in real life. It's like I don't need to be Instagram friends with him. I can go out with him. Can't go drink with him anymore because he's in AA. But that's all right. But sir, you want to read something, and you want to read what my life was like, because I'm never going to write it down. Read that book. It's called "It's Going to Hurt a Bit," and it's it's painful. It's wonderful, but it's real.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah. So so we've agreed that we don't really want to define what man is, right?
Well,
Right.
these days, I don't think you can.
I don't think it's necessary, though.
Because you take 5 people, male and female, and put them in a group, and I don't care if they're, we're born male or female. You just take 5 individuals, put them in a room, and there's women that are going to be more of a quote unquote man, or father, or dad, or husband, than many guys that have 2 nuts and a swinging dick. Or it's just, you can't define that. Now, if you want to get into what's the difference between a dad and a father, that's a whole different ball game. But defining a man, you can't even say, well, it's someone who goes to work and takes care of the family, because that dynamic has completely changed. There's plenty of women that bring home the bacon and fry it up, and and serve it, and then eat it and feed the kids too. So you can't define it anymore. It should have been something that just kind of gone to the wayside long before now. Just like racism, who the hell would think that we would be where we were in the 50s, here 70 years later? It's just absolutely ridiculous that we can make such strides in technology and go into space and all of this crap, but yet we can't fix the human condition, or even address it without, everything falling to shit. So, fixing the little things that we can, Bill taking the time to spend his Sundays with these kids and actually making a difference in their lives, and changing the pattern. Like I said, I made sure that I didn't say the kind of crap that triggers me to my kids, man up and get your head out of your ass, dumbass, any of those things. And that's what it's going to take to eradicate all of this crap is folks like us 4 here that make that change for ourselves, making sure that we don't make those mistakes, but then trying to educate and push that further so that future generations, it's not even a subject that they have to have a show like this in 10 years, 15 years, because it's just eradicated. At least that would be my hope.
Yeah.
Oh man, if this was ever rendered obsolete, I would be the happiest motherfucker on the planet. That's my gift to man up. Fuck man up. I don't ever want to hear it, and I never will use it with children or people.
Yeah, you just can't. Well, guys, we actually went on for an hour here.
Wow.
And,
I know we're actually getting ready to close up, and if anybody has anything, like a closing statement or something, or just let us know again where we can follow you on social media. Bill, I know you've got your sign. Bill McSciFi.com. I am not so prepared.
Here's something funny. If you go to my website, you click on any of the pages, I actually cut a deal with a bank so you can buy gift cards, Visa gift cards with Bill McSciFi drafted on them. And it's like the stupidest thing I've ever fucking done in my life, but it pays me, so I don't care. But yeah, there's me. There you go.
Very nice.
Bill has gone corporate on us, folks. You heard it here.
Yeah. I'm like the next Rockefeller, yo.
What's that stuff behind you for sale, huh? What? Can't see it.
He's got all kinds of books. We love you, Bill McSciFi, McCormick.
Of course.
And I want to thank you guys for being here today. I think it was a great conversation. This is going to be going out on our podcast, the Geek Insider podcast, and that is going to get aggregated out to iHeartRadio and Spotify and a few other places. So wherever you listen to your podcast, you can tune in. And we'll have this up on, actually, it's up on YouTube right now. We're just going
Right.
to clean it up a little bit, have a good description and everything about the conversation. And this will also be up on WildOne forever. We're going to do a follow-up article and stuff. So, thank you, everybody, if you were listening
quick,
in.
Before you
go
sign
ahead.
out, Meredith, I was just going to say, and then crap, I just had to do it. I had to forget what I was going to say before we ended the show. No, if you all have any topic ideas that you would like to see covered in a show like this, Meredith did one here a while back. What was the topic, Meredith? Bullying? Was it bullying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
I sat with Rob Anderson with that.
And so if there's any subjects that you would like to discuss or see discussed, just email myself, Matthew at geekinsider.com or Meredith at geekinsider.com. These type of shows right here. Of course, we do our Geek Speak every week, and then we do Lady Geek, and I've got my Geeky Cheeky and Downright Freaky shows. But these type right here of just bringing some folks that we've met over the years or over our time here at Geek Insider together to discuss these type of topics. I really like these kind of shows. We just take the topic and then discuss it. And so if there's anything that you would like to see, or if you'd even like to be involved in one of these shows, drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you.
And I think, Bill, for you knowing someone who is intersex and me knowing someone who's intersex, I think that is a really interesting topic to try to do and get someone on for that, because a lot of people don't really understand what that's all about.
I will admit, I do not understand. I don't understand pronouns. I don't understand. And it's not like I'm being difficult or anything like that, but I do want to learn.
Right.
But to what Bill was saying earlier, if we kind of refer to ourselves as human,
human, yeah.
I identify as Meredith or Mare or Geek or, you.
Right.
It doesn't really matter as long as you're not offending me, or abusing me in any way. I really don't care. I really don't care because I am comfortable in my own skin, and I think that's important. And I think because I am comfortable in my own skin, I can be quiet and I can listen.
Yeah, and keep in mind that these are people who are not comfortable in their own skin. That's why they're transitioning. So think of it as like I don't know if you've ever like burned yourself, but where every day that section of skin is raw and it hurts and it's their whole life is like that.
Yeah.
And I've learned that from the young ladies I've dealt with, but I kind of figured that out before, so I didn't really screw that up. But yeah, it's like an open wound that they're trying to cauterize. They're trying to heal. They're trying to become this other thing. It isn't. Somebody said it's like they're like a butterfly. They were a caterpillar, and then they chrysalis, and they become out of butterfly. And that's beautiful. And I like the analogy, but it's not true. They're going through some real pain. And I'll send you the information.
Yeah, I think that would be
friend.
Interesting for a lot of people to hear. To hear that, because a lot of people don't know. They know, okay, well, they're transitioning, or he's a she now. But I think in this day and age, I think that is important.
I like that topic idea a lot. And I think that's something we should plan on, Meredith.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you guys for being here. Bill McCormick, Jennifer Pedalino.
I know, that's fine.
I like it.
I like it too. That's all in Drexler, only by association. I'm German. Right. I'm Italian. Come on.
She's my high school friend. I could call her Jen.
JD, whatever.
So I'm going to end the broadcast now. I want to thank you all for tuning in. If you're watching on the replay, make sure that you hit the like button, share it out to your friends. And on that note, you guys have a great night until we talk to you again. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.